Okay.
Yeah.
Test, test. Okay, good. So we're recording. Awesome. Okay, great. So we'll just go straight into the interview. And I'm so excited.
Me
Okay,
too.
Sigrun, welcome to the Prowess Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Ashley. It's a pleasure.
I'm so excited to talk with you today. And I want to dive right in. Sigrun, you have achieved amazing things. What is your mission behind everything that you do?
My mission is to accelerate gender equality through female entrepreneurship. And it started with an experience I had when I was 16 years old. I didn't know back then it would turn into my mission for life. But I had been raised in the belief I could do anything I wanted. My parents instilled this belief in me. And at the age of 9, we had the first female president in Iceland. He was a president for 16 years. So I grew up thinking I can be president if I want to. And at the age of 16, I did a course at a dressmaker's home. I was learning how to make my own clothes. And instead of, talking about positive things, I felt the women in the room who were in their 40s, I would say, they were all talking about the things they had not achieved in life, the dreams they had left behind, and they couldn't do because they got married, because they had kids, because they were dependent on their job, time and money and all these endless excuses that I unfortunately still hear today. I thought the world would have changed. And I come from Iceland, and according to the World Economic Forum, Iceland is number 1 in gender equality, 11 years in a row. And the situation is a lot better in Iceland now than when I was growing up. But still today, I meet women, especially in other countries, that don't believe that they can make their dreams come true. So when I started my business 6 years ago, it became very clear to me that this had to be my purpose, my mission. I was not starting a business to just, collect a pile of money and use it just for myself. I knew it had to have a bigger purpose, and this is my why.
Mm, I'm sure everyone listening to that just feels the passion with what you're doing, and it's so needed still today in every country. It doesn't matter where you come from. I was in Iceland a couple years ago, and I could feel the difference with the women there,
Mhm.
palpable difference. But wherever you're coming from, there's opportunity for improvement for sure. So you talked about launching your business 6 years ago, but you don't have a background in business. So how did you become a CEO without any formal training? What was that journey like?
So my parents had their own business. So from the age of 10 to 23, I worked all my holidays in a very small family business. It was a dry cleaning. My parents had a few employees, and I started doing very simple tasks at the age of 10, working 2 hours a day in my summer holiday. By the age of 13, I was already, servicing customers that came in with their clothes that needed dry cleaning. I remember being very insulted when someone asked for a grown-up because I thought I knew it all by age of 13 already. Um, and by the age of 23, my parents suggested that maybe I should start to do my summer jobs actually in a profession that I do later in life. So that's when I stopped working for them.
Mm.
But I guess I learned a lot of things. Of course, I was not involved in hiring people or doing bookkeeping or any of the management part of the business, but I learned customer service, and I learned, we do what it takes to make the customers happy. So I learned a lot of those things. But yes, I did not have a business education or any business experience when I came back from Germany after have studied architecture.
Mm.
And then I had worked a couple of years in a software company. And suddenly I found myself in a small software company with only 15 employees. And one day I come to work and the company has been sold. And it was a huge shock because I was the project manager in the company. I took care of all the accounts. I was account manager and project manager. And I felt I'm basically running the company, except I'm not the CEO and I'm not, deciding how we spend our money, but I am making the sales in the company. So after a few days, after the initial shock of the company being sold, I started to get this crazy idea that I could become the CEO. And first, I just kept it to myself. After a few days, I shared it with my sister, who was also working in the company. And I felt I needed her approval to go after the job. And then I started to think, like, how do I let people know? How do I let the new owners know that I want this job? Maybe they have someone in mind. But what I knew back then, they would not ask me. I was just a simple project manager with an architecture degree. Like, why would anyone ask me to do that job? And there were guys in the company that were maybe a marketing manager or something else, and I knew it. If they would ask someone else in the company, they would probably ask a guy. A woman has to raise her hand and tell, why not me? But you have to go forward and actually do it. So I figured out who had bought the company. I went to the website and, as luck will have it, I knew one person working at the company. We had played together as at the age of 8 or even younger. So long time ago. But, I got the courage to call her up and ask her what I needed to do to get the attention of her bosses, and they would consider me for this job. And she told me, write a 2-page memo on the status of the company and where you think it's going and send it to me, and I will get it to the right people. So that's what I did after, of course, asking a lot of people and having lots of doubts, can I do this? I think it was very helpful to ask my dad. I asked him, what do you think? And he said, well, go for it. And then I said, well, I know nothing about bookkeeping and I've never run a company. I said, no problem. There are people that will help you and you'll figure it out. So I sent him the memo, and few weeks later, these were a little bit grueling weeks because I heard nothing for 3 weeks. But one day, one of the owners came to the business and looked at the company. I was not there that day. So my sister called me up and said, the new owners came to visit today. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? So through some research, I got a hold of a mobile phone number of the guy and called him up and said, hey, I heard you were, looking at the company today, and I work at this company, and do you have my memo? I was really very nervous. And I think making this phone call is probably the most courageous thing I've done in my life. And he had my memo. He was very happy to hear from me. And half an hour later, I met him and his lawyer. And within a few weeks, they had hired me. They loved my boldness of just asking for the job.
I'm applauding you right now. I want to dig into that because, like you say, it was such a bold move. But also, you grew up in a country that is number one in advancing women. And yet, when the opportunity presented itself to step forward, even you experienced a temptation to disqualify yourself. Mm-hmm. And where do you think that came from?
Well, I think society, even in a country where we are so advanced in gender equality, it's typically men that have the money, and it's men buying companies. And in venture capital, it's typically men that just control hiring as well. And you tend to hire people like yourself. And I think women are a bit more aware of it. So actually in my business, I have hired both men and women. Even if my mission is advancing women, I do have men on my team. But I do think this is the blind spots and we are trying to make people aware of gender biases, but they are there. And men tend to hire men. And we even have our own biases to hire men for certain jobs and not women. And I just knew if I would not put myself forward, that they would potentially hire a man. They would not even ask me.
Mm. So in that process of considering whether you could do it, you mentioned that you talked to your sister and you wanted her approval. Was there anyone, was it her or anyone that you spoke with who you felt made the biggest difference in giving you permission to step forward?
I think it was actually a guy I was dating for 2 months at the time. And it feels kind of weird to admit that.
Uh-huh.
But I was dating this guy, and this is happening the same time we're dating. And I, of course, ask him what he thinks. And he says, go for it. You've been there a whole year. You know all the clients, why not you?
Mm.
And I felt somehow his approval was probably most helpful. Of course, my dad is going to say yes. I was happy that my sister agreed, but because it was more about we were equals in the business, was she going to be happy with me being her boss? So that was important to me. And she worked for me after that for 5 years. So that worked out really well.
I love it so much. That resonates with me because in the early days of my business, this is my second company, I was thinking I would launch, this company later, maybe when in my 40s. I don't know why I always think in your 40s you'll do something great. But I went out to lunch with a guy. We were not dating, but we were at lunch, and he was the one that said, why not now? You already have clients. And that was the needle mover for me.
Yeah.
So it's so important and helpful to have those third-party people who you can open up to, who are going to champion what you want to do anyway.
Yes. I think we are not really asking for permission, but we need somehow confirmation that we're on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this all happened, so exciting, and so now you're running the company. And talk to me about what that transition was like. Did you have to do any mindset work to feel that you belonged in the new role? What was that like?
Yeah, actually, just about a week into the new job, I saw a full page ad from Dale Carnegie. And I had heard about Dale Carnegie, and this was where people would go to increase their self-confidence. And somehow the ad really spoke to me. Suddenly I was the boss of my peers. And that was a very new role for me. I don't think I'm generally a person that, oh, yes, Sigrun, you need more self-confidence. And actually, people were very surprised when I told them that I was going to do this 12-week course with Dale Carnegie. But the thing is, you can be confident in one area and not confident in another area.
Yeah.
And we all have some doubts in some areas of our lives.
Yeah.
So I decided to go for this course, and it was literally life-changing for me. And I know every time I mention it that I probably have inspired other people to go and do a Dale Carnegie course. And I still today, I think even Warren Buffett mentioned this as one of his, personal development tools, and what he's very proud of having done early on in his career. It did help me a lot, but it surprises you. You work on different things, and it's very personal. And turns out that a breakup that I had a couple of years earlier was still bothering me a lot. And I worked on that. And I was like, I thought I would do something else. But at the same time, I also learned to tell a story in 2 minutes, to stand up in front of people and just, practice that every night. And it worked so well that I was asked to be an assistant Dale Carnegie trainer. I did that for a whole year in different courses. And then I actually got certified as well because I just loved the program.
It's so important to have that 360 support. And whether it is Dale Carnegie or another area of life, mentors are so crucial. And that's why it's so amazing that you exist, right? It's that you're providing that level of support for women in business.
Yeah.
So all this is happening, and talk to me about running a team, because obviously one of the roles of being a CEO in any business is scaling, and to do that you need a team. So as you build your multiple seven-figure business at this point, um, what were the first 5 hires that you made?
So I started my business 2014, and I went into this business with a scaling mindset right away, which is maybe different from someone who's not run a business before. So I was a CEO for 10 years. And one of the experiences I made, and it was exactly in that first job in this website company I took over in 2004. After I did a turnaround, we started to grow very fast. And at some point, the growth slowed down because I couldn't find enough people.
Mm.
And I realized if I ever have a business later on, I'm not going to create a business that is stopped by that factor. I really wanted to create a scalable business. So I started my business 2014. I tried to go straight into online courses and have a big failure with that. So I can authentically teach my clients, no, please start with one-on-one if you can, because that's the best way to learn. Don't do my mistake. Don't repeat my mistakes. So middle of 2014, I finally get it. And I start to work with one-on-one clients for longer periods of time. And that's about the time where I hire my first virtual assistant. And I did actually work with like 2-3 people in my first year.
Mhm.
And they stayed on with me probably for a year. But these were people that I had to teach a lot of things. I would, for instance, do a whole like description. I would like write a whole process on how to set up a webinar. And I would teach that to a virtual assistant that was just starting out and charging $20 an hour. And coming into 2015, where I was already making 6 figures a year right after my first year, I realized this was not going to help me grow. I needed someone that could work more independently and possibly had some experience. So I was attending a conference in May 2015 where I was really asking around other women if they knew someone. And I was very lucky, even if I don't believe in luck, to be connected with Lynn, who is still on my team today.
Wow.
And she's actually in Iceland right now. We are recording this as I'm in Iceland, and I'm meeting her for dinner afterwards. So it was a huge blessing. And I think the universe was working for me. I met the right people who knew the right people, and she just had lost a job from someone else. And so that was amazing. But I was very much in the mode of giving tasks out. And I had not transitioned to giving people more, responsibilities. And I think that is a transition or experience a lot of online entrepreneurs make. They hire for tasks like, oh, I'm going to hire a virtual assistant that does this and this for me. But they end up being the project manager. And that is a difficult transition because you will hire a copywriter, you hire a graphic designer, and you hire for all these things that you feel are missing in your business. And then you end up still being the bottleneck because you have to manage all these people and tell them exactly what to do. Even if they know a lot and can do a lot on their own, they're kind of waiting for you to tell them what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that took me a while to get out of that mode of saying, you're responsible for this area.
Yeah.
And even just last year, and I shared this in my year in review blog post, over 10,000 words long, where I analyzed the year 2019 and how I finally got over my resistance of growing my team. Now, my team had grown a bit in 2018. In 2017, my husband joined as a COO. End of 2018, I got a part-time community manager and a social media manager. But we were still a relatively small team for a 7-figure business. And I remember I shared with my mastermind group all my goals. Like, I have a conference coming up and I want to do this and this and that. And they're like, you can't do that with such a small team. And I'm like, I know. But I was like, who should I hire first? And how should I do it? And one of the women said very wisely to me, Sigrun, I think you are resisting growing your team because you want to prove to women that you can do it all on your own.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, she's so right.
Wow. Okay. I want to dig into that. Everything you're saying, there's like 5 areas I want to go into because it's so juicy. So let's recap really quickly. So the first hire you made was a VA, and then the second hire, Lynn, was she also a VA?
Well, no, she was an online business manager. She had already worked for a big online marketeer, and that person decided to stop having virtual team and have a local team. So that's why she was out of a job. But she knew Entreport, and she already knew these tools. So definitely, she was more like an online business manager.
Perfect. So she can manage the implementation of the idea that you have. Okay. Then you hire your husband, and he's a COO. Okay.
Yeah,
And
my husband lost his job after 10 years working for Cisco Systems. And then
wow.
I said, you don't need to go and work anywhere else. Just help me out.
I love that so much. That's a separate podcast about working with your life partner. Okay. So then you hire your husband, who's a COO, and then you hire a community manager. And what was the other role?
Social media, Instagram and YouTube and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any other third-party contractors who are working at this point? Any copywriters or Facebook ads, anything like that?
Yeah. So when I say team, I often think of my core team, people that
Uh-huh.
I talk to almost daily. Beyond that, I have what I call an extended team.
Mm-hmm.
So when I launched my podcast in 2017, I decided right away to have this at a outsource to a company,
Mm-hmm.
but a company that I feel is a part of the team, but they are not showing up on team calls and things like that.
Right.
So I worked with the same company since 2017. They're amazing. I have a show note writer and a podcast editor, and I just look at them like an extension of my team.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do my Facebook ads myself pretty much up until late 2016, early 2017. And that is also kind of an extension of my team. And and finally, after getting this comment early in 2019, I was ready to hire an executive assistant. She joined in June. I also hired a podcast manager. So even if I have an editor outsourced, there's a lot of things you need to do. Like, we need to plan the podcast, make sure I record it on time, set up the blog post, make sure the podcast editing team has everything they need. We've actually changed our podcast to be more blog posts now. So we don't want these summarized show notes anymore. So there's a lot of things to think about. And I just thought, I want a podcast manager. Of course, that person does a lot of other things. He's actually going to be my D-Rock. Do you know Gary Vee? He has like a guy following him around.
Yes.
Yes, I'm going to have one in 2020. So we're in the process of getting this person to follow me around.
Mm-hmm.
For a while now, as a podcast manager. We hired a copywriter part-time who is more of a blogger. So she's not yet doing any of my kind of emails or sales emails or even sales pages. She's more doing the blogging type of work, like something that doesn't need like expertise in conversions. But yeah, and then I hired a sales manager as well. So I went on a hiring spree in the spring of 2019 after finally getting over my resistance and realizing I have nothing more to prove. I've already built a 7-figure business pretty much almost on my own with very little help. There's nothing more to prove. So now now I'm so excited. I'm always thinking, who should I hire next?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So that is, it's really powerful to hear you say that because I want to give people the true back end details of the climb. And you built a multiple seven figure business at this point, but it's important for people to hear what went into the first seven figures, right? And of all the hires that you made in that process, can you point to one or two that played the biggest role in your growth?
Absolutely hire an online business manager, and hiring someone like I was pretty much at, like, I had made six figures overall in my business in about 12, 15 months. And then I hired an online business manager who did, cost more than a virtual assistant.
Right.
But, she's still with me today. We started only with 5 hours a week, and now she's full time.
Mm-hmm.
And she can literally do anything for me. I think she's like a generalist like me. Like, I could do graphic design, I can do copy, I can do tech, I can do it all, but I shouldn't.
Right.
The same way she actually shouldn't. So now I have hired an assistant for her
Mm-hmm.
because she can do a lot of things, but that also turns into a bottleneck when you grow. So I am seeing the core team should only be managers, and all of them should have people that they can outsource to.
Yes. Oh, so powerful. Okay, there's a common wisdom out there that when you want to scale, you need to clone yourself. And I want to ask you about your online business manager, which was that key first hire. Did Lynn, your online business manager, have similar skill and personality to you? And was she a clone, or was she a complement and had skills you did not have?
I think she's similar to me
Okay.
in many ways. Yeah. Uh, I think she could even write my emails if she wanted to, and she has written a few, and people would not necessarily notice after all these years. But people have to be careful about this. Like, when she joined, I did not see her being me. I was needing help with certain things, like she knew Entreport. I was just jumping onto that. And if I had done maybe more assessments, personality assessment, I would have realized how close we are in values and thinking. But it was very interesting. So one of the first sales pages she set up for me, I had written the copy and I gave her access to the images, and I wanted her help to set it up. And she set it up, and I thought it was so ugly that I went in and changed it all. And then she sent me a message and said, Sigrun, I wished you would have just told me what you didn't like and what you liked so I could learn. And there was like a knife into my heart, because I realized how horrible of a boss I had just been by doing this.
Mm.
Uh, Now, after all these years, I would even say last year or even 2018, she does the sales page. I see it when it's ready. Even the day before we open cart in a launch, she will show me the page maybe the day or two before and said, Sigrun, here's the sales page. And I always say, I love it.
That's so powerful. Well, it clears up so much of your time also, because you've just empowered her to step into her own leadership
Yeah.
and implement your vision. Then you just have to go in and approve.
Yeah. And the thing is, you get to know people. And if you have people on board that believe in your mission, believe in you, they are going to go the extra mile. And I think that's the key. When you're hiring people that are willing to go the extra mile, and you're going to notice fairly quickly. And I felt somehow I was a failure because I hired and fired a lot of people around 2015 and 16. But, the people I hired last year, I only had to let one person go. And I knew that within 2 months. And now I don't feel bad about it. I just like, okay, if I'm hiring 5 people, one is going to have to leave. That's just math. And the others are amazing. So I feel that's a part of building a dream team. You can do all the tests in the world and extra assignments and, interviews, and still you're going to make mistake. Something is going to come out. People are going to show their best in the interview, and it's only after you work together, maybe 1 or 2 months, you realize, oh, this is not going to work. And then you just have to take a quick decision. And today I really feel I have a dream team. There are still always hires that I want to do. And as you say, cloning yourself. In my programs, I also resisted to hire additional coaches because I felt people were buying access to me. But I didn't realize right away, like once you have a process and systems, you actually can have other people do the work with you. And I hear even in my lowest program, oh, Sigrun, you're so accessible. And I'm like, well, I have all these mentors. I have mentors and I have coaches, and still they feel I'm accessible because I still show up. I still do a Facebook Live. I'm still answering some questions in the group, but I feel I've been able to step back a lot. So now I'm constantly looking for coaches. I look even in my students to say, who is a potential coach for me maybe next year? Can I elevate this person? And then I reach out to them, and they're building their own business. And I say, how about, you spend, 2 hours a month doing calls and a few, maybe 15 minutes a day in my groups. And then we just make a deal of how that could work out together. And now in 2020, I'm going to have at least 5 coaches in my group coaching program. I have 11 student mentors in my Samba program, which is the lower program. And it's only in the masterminds that I really am more doing one-on-one and closer to my clients. But overall, I'm accessible and available in every program, but still I've been able to step back.
It's so awesome to hear you say that. And I want to go back to what you said about the sales page, because I happen to know that you execute 6-figure launches on a regular basis. And so much goes into that beyond the sales page, right? So let's switch gears a little bit, because all of this is so valuable. But I want to also dig into the launches and the scale process of launching. So how do you pull that off? What goes into the successful completion of these 6-figure launches?
Well, it is art and science, which is so beautiful. It's the original reason why I studied architecture in the first place. It's that wonderful mixture of some of it you can plan out and measure, and some of it is this art, this creativity, where you just have to sense what's right. So that's why I really try to have as few meetings, often no meetings during launch window. So I can step in and do that magic, like this extra touch, what I feel is needed. Maybe I just sense there isn't, oh, maybe people are not getting this. Now I need to do this Facebook Live, or I need to write an extra email, or we need to have this person share their success story, whatever it needs. So that's something you just learn with time. But it's really a numbers game. When I did my first course launch, I wanted it to be 6-figure out of the gate. And as I'm going into the launch, I had already hired a copywriter to write the sales pitch and the emails to help me out with that, even though I kind of knew I just wanted to outsource that to make sure it was properly done. I had do a good pre-launch where I had built up my list. But as I was heading into the launch, maybe 1 or 2 weeks before our actual webinar and open card was, I just sensed that I was not going to be able to do this on my own. So I reached out to my VIP clients and asked them, would you be willing to be affiliates for this launch? I know it's very last minute and we only have 2 weeks to kind of promote, but how about it? And they said yes. And it would not have worked without them. We just made the 6 figures. Actually, it was more like 96,000. So actually the next day I was like, can we make 2-3 more sales? So actually we crossed the 6-figure mark and we did. But yeah, I could not have done without the affiliates. And that's where you just have to sense it. This is like being a business owner and knowing in your gut what you need to do. And for me, launches is the mixture of a numbers game. You know that average conversion rate is 3%. Then you know how many leads you need. you need to spend on Facebook ads, and Facebook ad cost is going up. So percentage of the revenue you want to have needs to be spent on getting those leads. Now, some will be organic, some will be through Facebook ads, and some will come from your affiliates. And it's just all a numbers game. And then it's that extra. I've also had launches where we had a 5% conversion. And when I look back, um, uh, I think like there were so many crazy things that happened in that launch that helped. The internet broke down, and I had over 4,000 people on a webinar. The internet broke down, and for a second I was thinking, what do I do? And then I just went on a hotspot on my phone, and Zoom is so great. All the people were still there, and I didn't lose a single person, even if I was gone for whatever, 30 seconds or a minute. At the same time the internet broke down, the oven went on fire in my house.
What?
My teenage stepsons were cooking lasagna, and they had some plastic thing in there, whatever, and my husband went to fix it. And it was not a big fire, but the thing is, I shared all of this with my community.
Yes.
And then I did an encore webinar, and I said, well, in the last webinar, the internet broke down, the oven went on fire, we overhit the capacity of Zoom. Are you going to show up for the encore? And of course, a lot of people showed up and made that the highest conversion rate from selling a $2,000 product.
What? That blows my mind.
But that's what you can do in a launch. You should use mistakes or failures to your advantage.
Yeah.
So anything that happens, you're going to share it, because that's going to make you human. People are more excited to show up instead of you just like, oh, I'm just going to rely on the numbers. Oh, I have enough numbers to make a 6-figure launch.
Right.
Well, whatever you can do to make this more you, more human, more in the moment. Now, of course, I cannot use this again. The internet hasn't broken down since then. The oven hasn't gone on fire, but maybe something else happens, and use that.
I really hope people are taking notes on what you just said. It also allows people to breathe and to be okay with the imperfection, knowing that the imperfection could actually be the thing that moves the needle the most.
Yeah,
So good.
that's
So, of the organic and the affiliates and the Facebook ad metrics for your launch, do you have a percentage breakdown on what people should plan for?
well, in my first a launch with affiliates, actually affiliates were 70%, and that was quite of the sold spots were 70% from affiliates. And I was quite shocked, because I thought that was a lot based on everything I had done myself and all the money we'd spent on Facebook ads. But luckily I heard other online entrepreneurs share similar numbers. So that relaxed me a little bit. I also think what can happen is that I build up a great following and I have my leads, but somehow, even if it's someone on my list, they gravitate towards an affiliate and start to follow them and their success story, and then they come back. So sometimes you are paying affiliate lead that you could potentially have sold on your own. But for me, trying to kind of figure this out, that's a scarcity mindset versus abundance mindset. I just give the affiliate the benefit of the doubt. But I do say over time, we've been able to reduce it. And I think that's great. Now it's more about 40%. And organic, I don't really have the numbers for that. But let's say if you have an email list, an engaged email list, and it's a small list, I would expect, let's say 30% of that list to show up for some webinar you're doing. The bigger the list gets and the older it is, that number is going to be less and less. So it could be 20 or even down to 10%. So it's hard to say. I think smaller lists, higher percentage is going to be organic.
Mm-hmm. That's why you always need to be refreshing a list and building up the community and delivering that value. So let's shift gears again. I know I'm talking about so many things, but it's because this is also juicy and I want people to get so much value, which I know people are loving this, Sigrun, so thank you. Um, so you're in Iceland right now, and when we talked last, we met actually in real life a few months ago, and you shared that you're hosting a very large conference, a very unique event in Iceland, which totally piqued my interest because that's such an amazing country. Who wouldn't want to go there? Um, so I want to give you the chance to share about what it is and how you even came to host this event, which is a really funny story.
Yeah. So I I believe if you want to have a big impact, online business alone is probably not going to cut it.
Yeah.
Uh, it's such a bubble we're in, and it's a wonderful bubble, and I love all the people, but the general public has no idea what we're doing. And if we want to have an impact, we need to go offline. We need to go into the traditional media, and we need to go on stages and write books and all that stuff. So that's been clear to me for a while. Um, so speaking and writing books, what's kind of an obvious thing to do when you want to have an impact? Hosting a conference, not so much, because that's a bigger venture. But yeah, that's a funny story how that all happened. So probably back to 2016, that was my second time I went to Social Media Marketing World conference that I love going to. And Gary Vee is one of the keynote speakers. And then he puts on Twitter, I'm not very active on Twitter, but somehow I caught his message that he was going to have a meetup in the garden of the Marriott Hotel. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to be there. And he's updating and he's a little bit delayed and whatever. So I'm there and about 100 other people. Now, Social Media Marketing World is typically a conference with 5,000 attendees. So only 100 people saw the message and made the way to the garden. And when he finally appears, I am probably person number 3 in the queue to get a selfie. And as I'm standing there and it's soon my turn, I think to myself, I'm not going to tell him I'm a business coach. I know he doesn't like business coaches. So what can I say? And I just say, have you been to Iceland? And he says, no, I haven't. And I said, you should go. And then you take the selfie. That's all you can say to someone who is like, there are 100 people waiting for selfies. So you're not going to be the bad person that talks on forever. Then he gives his keynote. And the day after, he has a book signing. I already own the book. I have the book. But I thought to myself, this is another chance to talk to him briefly about Iceland or whatever. I'm not going to mention that I'm a business coach. So I have to buy the book and then I can queue up. And now I'm maybe number 10 or 15 in a row. So I have a little bit more time to think about. And I see that people are taking pictures, but one person in front of me takes a video. And I'm like, oh, that is smart. So I go up to the desk and, give him my tag so he can write my name properly. Otherwise, people always misspell it. And then I just turn around and I have my camera and I have the video on. And I said, so you want to come to Iceland? Will you be speaking at my event? I just say, out of the blue, I don't know what I was thinking. And he said, are you putting me on the spot by recording this on video? And I said, yes, I am. Otherwise, I take you to court. Or I said something silly like that. And he said, all right, I'll do it.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, afterwards, what event? So anyway.
You did not have an event at this point?
No,
okay.
no event, no conference, nothing planned. This was just, what came out of my mouth.
Oh my gosh.
Then later that same year, 6 months later, I'm in Helsinki, Finland, attending Nordic Business Forum, another amazing conference. And he is, again, a keynote speaker. And I buy a first class ticket where you can have a meet and greet. Now, it's a funny thing that this conference attracts mostly corporate clients. not solopreneurs. So nobody knows who Gary Vee is. And that's so funny to see him in an audience where nobody knows who he is. He actually is kind of offended. He doesn't like that so much. So we were only about 10, 15 people at the meetup. The corporate people just left. It was really just entrepreneurs, super fans. And I asked him, do you remember me? And he's like, of course he doesn't remember. And I immediately say, because I don't want also him to be embarrassed not knowing. So I said, I asked you if you would come to Iceland. Oh, yeah, you, something like that. So then he's standing around and he always tells a lot of stories and blah, blah, blah. So he's finishing telling a story and I kind of pull him over and I have now a Facebook Live ready to go.
Oh my gosh.
I go on Facebook Live and I write already, I'm talking to Gary Vee, and I put on the Facebook Live and I said, so you're coming to my conference in Iceland. Are you really asking me about this again? He said, because by then he had remembered who I was. And he was like a little bit annoyed, but in a funny way. He's not like really annoyed. He knows how to deal with people. Yeah. But I was like, yeah, I just want you to confirm again that you're coming. Of course I'll come. So I was like, okay, now I've asked multiple times and I have no idea what this is. And I go into 2017 and I know where I'm going to host my conference. At the harbor in Reykjavik, Iceland. If you can just imagine the Sydney Opera House, if they would build a brand new one right now, it would not look like it looks. And that's what they build in Iceland. It's a glass facade, 3D glass. There is color in the glass. They can switch. They can even switch it to red. And there's like glass moving, and it's outstanding architecture. And it has received architectural prizes and prizes for sound. It's built as a concert hall, but it also serves as a concert center. So I knew like, this is it. Also, the main hall is fiercely red.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. And I love red. Red is my favorite color. I'm known for wearing red every day. So I just thought to myself, this is it. So 2017, I already have this picture in my head. It's kind of going on my vision board. But to me, this was nothing going to happen anytime soon. I was thinking maybe after 5 years, after 10 years, I have to build my following. I have to have more people know who I am so I can really, sell out this conference. And then I'll get Gary Vee to speak. These thoughts are going. But the thing is, in 2017, I think it was 2017 or was it 2018? I do a strategy day with Gary Vee and VaynerMedia. And I think it was actually 2018. And I still haven't done anything, so I don't mention it. He's right there. I'm talking to him. I'm like, I'm not going to mention the conference because now I'm feeling a little bit like the person that asks again and again and then never executes. And we know these people, and I don't want to be one of them. It's wannapreneurs, and I don't want to be the wanna event person. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah. No,
so I was like, I'm not going to mention the conference now. But I was thinking like, and I heard that his rates were going up. He has crazy speaking rates.
Yeah, he does.
At some point when I was asking, I had checked already. It cost then $80,000 to have him speak. In 2018, that price was gone up to $100,000 at least.
200.
Now it's just it's just six figures. Yeah, like 100,000, 120,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And probably it's gone up even more since then. And I was thinking to myself, at some point, I just cannot afford to hire him. And I know if you hire him, you have to pay 50% right away. So I was calculating in my head, okay, I'll do another launch and then I'll just pay for Gary Vee. But I still had not thought about this conference. So in October 2018, I invite my VIP clients to Iceland for a mastermind retreat. It's as a part of the program. We do 3 retreats and one was in Iceland. And I thought to myself, what if we can do a tour of the conference center? And they invite like not a walking tour, but, sightseeing tour, and you can see into the hall. And we do that. Turns out also we were the only one who booked it that day. So it was like a private tour, which was really nice. And we come into the hall and they all look at me and say, Sigrun, when are you doing this? And I thought to myself, I got to book it. So we came back from the sightseeing and I'm at my laptop and they are really kind of pushing, Sigrun, when are you doing it? And the next day I had been thinking, so I checked the prices. They were not crazy for the event itself. Of course, doing an event like this probably is $500,000 cost.
Yeah.
But the event space itself is a small percentage. It's a lot of other things that just cost a lot of money. But I thought to myself, I gotta put a date on my dream.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, October, I'm gonna do it in June 2020. That gives me more than a year to, 1.5 years to plan what this is, because I still had no idea what's the concept, who is speaking, what is it about. Mm-hmm. And I booked it June 18th and 19th, 2020, without an idea, just after asking Gary Vee if he would come and speak.
You put a date on your dream.
The rest is logistics.
Yes. I have chills.
Yeah. So then I went into a bit of a crazy mode of self-sabotage, what's the name of the conference, what's the concept, and overthinking every single step. And sometimes we need it a little bit, but not too much. And I actually figured out I don't want Gary Vee to speak.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I was thinking, what is the concept? People started to ask me. I hired an event strategist. So they're not actually event managers, but more like event strategists. And they asked me very crucial questions. What's the concept? Who should attend? Why should they attend? What do they walk away with? What should they experience? What type of speakers do you think will deliver this experience? And the more I thought about it, the lower Gary Vee went on the list. And I felt quite sad. It was like grief almost, because I had kind of imagined seeing him on stage at my event. And I was feeling already proud of it, but it did not make sense, because my mission is to accelerate gender equality through female entrepreneurship. And when I think about that, and I think about the women attending and the women speaking, Gary Vee has no place at my conference.
Wow. So that was a big decision to change. What did the ultimate vision for the event come to be, and what is the name of it?
So that started to come together. I attended some events, some workshops, and it started to become very clear that in order to accelerate gender equality, we need to see more women doing the things that we want to do, and they're just a few steps ahead of us. So basically, we need more role models. And I want to bring to the stage women who have achieved the success that others want to see, but they're still down to earth and close enough that you will believe that you can do it too. So basically the concept, if she can do it, you can do it. Mm-hmm. All the speakers are 7-figure female entrepreneurs, and they are going to share what they did, what they had to do to get to where they are, and tell you exactly what you can do to get there too.
So good. And also they're, all these speakers are close enough to startup world that they haven't forgotten the struggle and the hustle and the confusion and the self-doubt and all the things that go into that climb, because it was a minute ago that they were there. Yeah. Whereas some people, like you say, they're world-renowned thought leaders. We love and adore them. But in some ways, part of the climb means that there is now elevation, and that means distance from some of the, day-to-day kind of mundane things. It's like, like you said early on, you let go so many people in your early hires, like they probably wouldn't think about that anymore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's exactly the point. I read an article in a magazine that we wouldn't normally read, Barbie magazine. This was a part of an exercise of reading magazines that you would never touch in your life. So I picked up the Barbie magazine and I'm flipping through it. It's like an anniversary magazine, and they're really putting gender equality and diversity forward. They did a bad job initially. Now
Yes.
they're doing a better job.
Yes, we like
Uh,
this.
at the article, there's an article on the very last page where I literally stopped and I thought, oh, this is it. They have a project called Closing the Dream Gap, because by the age of 5, most girls no longer believe they can make their dreams come true because they do not see women doing the things that they want to do. So I literally feel it's our, not just mission, but like we absolutely need to show up and become those role models. In order to do that, we need to see someone else do it before us. And this has a ripple effect down to a 5-year-old that's growing up today when they see more women doing the things that they want to do.
It makes me emotional when you describe that stat. Like I feel like tears are coming because our entire future depends upon the horizon line that we believe that we have. And it's just heartbreaking to imagine that a 5-year-old would think their horizon line is lower than it needs to be.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm excited about this event, because like you say, it's going to fill the room. I've seen the venue, guys. The pictures are stunning. It is like the most iconic venue you can imagine. It's red. There's velvet. The lighting is so arresting when you stand on that stage. There's going to be 1,000 people, right, Sigrun? 1,000 women from literally all over the world. And what is the name of it again?
Self-Made Summit.
Self-Made Summit. So if this is your year, guys, and you feel like, look, it's now or never, go big or go home. I just love what Sigrun's about. I mean, I want to be there, and I would encourage everyone to go. Reykjavik is beautiful. The round trip flights are more affordable than you would think. You can take an extra day or 4 to explore the country and the waterfalls, and it's a magical place.
Yeah. Most people are telling me I've always wanted to go to Iceland. Now I have a reason, and it's even a business expense.
Exactly. And you can't get better than that. So this has been so powerful, Sigrun, for me and for everyone listening. And we talked about so many different things in our conversation. I want to close with sort of a, I guess, in-depth question, but it's related to the conference. And it's related to your life story as well and how you've gotten to where you are. Do you believe there is such a thing as self-made?
For me, the self-made definition is not doing things on your own. So some people think that's a definition, but I think we can all define it for ourselves. Self-made is, for me, a woman who has done it on her own accord. Like, she has worked for it. She has built it up with her own money. It doesn't mean that you haven't hired a team or gotten some help from somewhere. But, if we think of self-made people, we think of Sarah Blakely, starting with $5,000, and now her company's worth $1 billion. She is absolutely the iconic self-made woman. And most female online entrepreneurs are self-made. They don't have investors. They did not take a bank loan. But even if you take a bank loan, that is still self-made because you took the loan and you have to pay it back. It's like just going into overdraft or whatever. But they're not outside investors. And I think we have a lot of we have a big startup scene in Iceland and also in Switzerland where I live most of the time. But the online entrepreneurship, and especially female online entrepreneurship, we don't get anywhere mentioned in that area. And actually, it's one of the things that Laura Roeder from Meet Edgar has talked about a lot and blogged about. She's completely self-made. She has no investors, and therefore she doesn't get media mentions.
Mm-hmm.
It's companies that get investors, like, oh, they had Series A funding and Series B funding and whatever, and somebody invested 100,000 and 2 million and 5 million and 10 million. Somehow these companies are in people's mind, in the general public's mind, more valuable than if a woman starts a business with $0 or $5,000 and a few years later she's making 7 figures, and that doesn't go into the news. She gets no attention. So it's maybe not my mission in life, but it's a part of the mission to make these women visible, and that includes you and me and everyone listening.
Sigrun, this lands so hard. Thank you for who you are. And I want to honor you for how you show up, how bold you are, how you put a date on the dream and make the declarations of what you're going to be, do, and have, even before the plan has come into place. It is so powerful to hear your story, and I'm excited for everyone who's listening to this to get a ticket to Self-Made Summit, to join the 1,000 women there, and to just exponentially increase their dream this year with your help and all the work that you do. So thank you for being here.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you for your kind words.